welcome back to Northwest City Politics in the Know with Juanita. We're glad to welcome you back to our show again this week. And we're very happy there are people like you out there that are interested in our cities and what's happening in them and want to keep up to date on it. So we're glad that you're watching us. And if you haven't watched our show before, each week we'll have somebody on from one of the 9 cities in Northwest Community Television's viewing area that will help us understand the issues that are going on in the city, different kinds of things like redevelopment and budgeting and all kinds of issues. Then from time to time we'll have groups that interact with all our cities, like the state legislators, like the Hennepin County Commissioners. So we're glad that you're with us, and we'll encourage you to have a pen and paper handy. Because if particularly tonight, if you're from New Hope, you'll want to take down some information. So if any of the issues that we talk about tonight are ones that concern you, then you can be in touch with your city to gather more information from city staff, or with your mayors and council people to let them know how they're feeling. And if you miss doing that, keep in mind that you can always find our programs on our YouTube channel so that you have a second chance to get that information. So we're glad that you're with us. And tonight we're very happy to welcome Kathi Hemken, the mayor of New Hope.
Thank you.
We're glad to have you back on our show. We're glad that you keep on coming and keep us updated.
Well, I like to come.
Well, we enjoy you. And since you've been on our show many times before, you know that I'm going to let you introduce yourself out to our wider audience. People from New Hope will know about you, but might be people in other cities that aren't familiar with you. So we'll give you a chance to let people know about yourself.
Well, I'm Kathi Hemken. I've lived in the city about 40 years. I've got 2 children, 4 stepchildren. And I've been a community activist since the time I very carefully moved here. I moved here because of the school district, and we stayed here because of the school district. And I really do like our school district here. I ran for mayor about 7 years ago, so I've been the mayor for 7 years. I plan to run one more time. There's so much fun stuff going on in New Hope, I really hate to give it up just yet.
And then I asked you to think a little bit about something people don't know about New Hope. So we'll bring some new information out.
Well, one of the exciting things that just happened, we did a survey in the community. We hired a company to do that. And they came back and with really, really good news. 92% of the people surveyed said they thought that the city was headed in the right direction. About 90% said they like what we're doing, they like the council, they like the mayor, they like the city staff, they found the city staff easy to work with. So I think that's really exciting news.
Oh, yes.
They think of New Hope as a small town surrounded by a big metropolis, as do I.
Right.
And I think that's a good place to be, and I like that spot.
And then people from New Hope can go on probably on your website if they want to see more information.
I believe it'll be on the website after the 26th.
So we'll encourage people to do that.
Yep.
Now we're going to move on to some other topics, and I thought we'd start out with a plus and kind of collaboration. There's a park in New Hope called Fred Sims Park. First, can you tell people where it's located, since we're going to talk about it?
It's about on 44th and Nevada.
Okay.
And there was a small distressed house sitting right in the corner of the park, and it had been there for years, and it was empty.
Right.
So the city purchased that, tore it down, and we just thought it would become part of the park. Well, it turned out there's a lot of legal things because it was zoned to be residential, so we had to remove that and vote on getting it part of the park, and then making sure that we did everything right. Well, then after that happened, our CAC, our Citizens Advisory Commission, their chair went to Hennepin Technical College and asked their landscaping group if they could design something for the park.
Oh, right.
And so they did a bunch of designs, about 5 of them, and a few of us went to the college and looked at the designs, picked the one we liked, added some things we wanted to change, told them we had a budget, gave them the budget, and they not only designed it, but they built it, and it's completed now.
Right, right.
So it didn't cost the city anything to do the designing. It's a very lovely landscaping job they've done. So if you haven't seen it, 44th and Nevada. Run over there and take a look at it.
Yeah, because there's lots of places where the city can do collaborations with other, that's not a unit of government, but with another public
Oh, sure,
group
sure.
that can bring good results, probably saving the city some money, but getting a particularly good result.
Well, North Hennepin Technical College also designed our entrance into City Hall. They did the landscaping in front of City Hall.
Oh, right, I forgot
And then
about
they
that,
came and actually did it.
Yeah.
So we didn't have to do it, and we didn't have to pay for it, and it was a good learning experience for the kids. They got graded on it. So everybody wins when you do that.
Oh, right, most definitely. And then there's a lot of redevelopment that's happening in New Hope, so we'll take it in pieces as we go along.
Oh my goodness, there is.
But I thought first we'll do an update on the city center area. And maybe you can tell a little bit about the process, because this whole thing with city center has been going on for years.
Yes.
So I thought we'll just pick up on it in January of 2014. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about the process that led to what is the new Hy-Vee store. Give people a little background.
When Kmart decided to close, we had talked about buying the Kmart building before that. Sears announced that they were going to close Kmart, and we immediately sat up and listened. It was our thought at that time that we did not want a big box empty store sitting what we thought was very valuable property right in the heart of our city. So the city council voted to buy that piece of property. We did that. We tore it down, but in the process, of course, there was some asbestos, so that cost money to do that. And then we demolished the building, had to clean up the soil a little bit because it was contaminated in parts. And basically, we cleaned the land so that we were ready for a developer. In the meantime, Ehlers is a company that we use, and they're like a redevelopment company. We had them go out there and look for some developers. They brought us some things we weren't really excited about. A large apartment complex. We said, well, gee, we want a flower shop, and we want a bakery, and we want a butcher shop, and we want these little shops in this large area. And mostly the developers said, no, that's not going to work. And they said, it's a lovely idea, but no thank you. So we don't build anything ourselves. We had to have a developer. We had to have somebody come in and say they're going to build that.
I don't think people are real familiar with the fact that the city can't just say, on this property, this is what's going to happen.
You can't do that. No. It's like your house. I mean, you can't just tell, I can't go to a homeowner and say, put a 3-stall garage there. And so you can't do that on a piece of property. Somebody has to come in. In the meantime, Ehlers again went out and started looking, and Hy-Vee contacted them. And so Stacy with Ehlers brought Hy-Vee in to us to propose a big store. And so we looked at it, and we haven't had a grocery store in New Hope for a long time. And we knew that the residents really wanted a grocery store.
Definitely.
And so in the process of talking to Hy-Vee and our community development guys, we signed an agreement with them that we would work exclusively with them for 6 months to see what they had. So they drew up some plans. We brought it to the public. We had people come in, and we moved the store from where it originally had been planned to another place. A little bit of expansion, just some different things that were going on. They wanted a car wash. We said no thank you. So with working with Hy-Vee and mostly the community development staff, they were able to work out all these small little problems. And each time they did something, they came back to the city council to get approval on that. One of the things that happened was when we bought the land and the building and tore it all down, we put about $5 million into that piece of property. Still, we had no developer, but we knew we had to get rid of that piece of property. So then we had a TIF district established. TIF means tax increment financing. And what that does is it looks at the amount of taxes a business was paying before, the amount of taxes they would be paying after, and that difference is called tax increment financing. They still pay the same amount of taxes. It's just where that money will go. And so we took some money out of the Economic Development Authority, the EDA, and that's what we used to buy the land and do these projects on, so we could have the clean land.
And that's the only kind of uses you can use that funding for, right? There's a set.
We're very restricted on what
right.
you can and can't do. So the difference between what we sold the land to Hy-Vee for and what we had invested in it was a little over $1 million.
Okay.
And so we did this TIF district using this $1 million to basically repay ourselves.
Right.
And when you have a TIF district, the money goes into the general fund, generally when we have taxes. But when you have a TIF district, it comes out of the EDA, the Economic Development Authority, and then it goes back into that for future development. So it's no advantage to the business, but it's a big advantage to the city because we can then have land, property ready for development. It's very typical when you have a piece of property and you tear it down and clean it up, that you're selling it for less than you have invested in it.
Oh, definitely.
A business is not going to pay the kind of money for that land that we had invested in it. We knew that going into this. We also knew that what we would get there was going to pay a lot more taxes than what we had there.
Right.
So that's how that all came about. Once we sold them the property, we were very specific on what we would have and would not have there. We did not want the car wash. We would accept the gas station and the convenience store. And then there was that other piece of land over in the corner. Well, back to the Hy-Vee, when they came in and said this store has a flower shop and a bakery and a restaurant and a delicatessen and we're going, well, that's all the things we wanted in this little, and now it's just all in one building. So we've been really happy working with Hy-Vee. They were very easy to work with. We didn't have any major problems along the way, just a lot of little things. But when you take care of the little things along the way, you don't have a big thing at the end. So Hy-Vee's open. It took about a year from the time they bought the land until it was open. It was about 9 months of building it, and the other 3 months were spent training all the people that they hired for that.
So it did bring a lot of jobs to the community, particularly part-time jobs.
563 as of last count. And they're full-time and they're part-time. A lot of seniors have been employed there, a lot of kids. Of course, with the kids, they have the hours they can and can't work. The store is open 24 hours. And some of the people that they brought in, they were brought in from other stores because you can't open a big store like that with 563 brand new people. You had to have some people that knew what they were doing. So it's employee owned. That means the employees that work there all share in the profits of that store. Some of that money, of course, will go to the main store in the corporation, but most of that profit stays right here in our community. So we are thrilled with Hy-Vee and what that has brought to our community.
Yeah, and that's a big plus.
It's a very big plus. The amount of taxes we're getting on that property is huge compared to what we were getting.
Oh, definitely.
And we don't have an ugly store there.
Right, and then in the past, when you had approached grocery stores about coming to New Hope, there wasn't anybody interested.
There wasn't anyone interested. Part of that was they looked at the income of the residents, and our New Hope's income is low. But the problem is we have Northridge, we have St. Therese. These are all nursing homes where the residents don't have income. And so that basically lowers the income. And when the grocery stores came in, they looked at the average income, and it was quite low. When Hy-Vee came, they said, "Oh, but you have all these nursing homes. Let's take those out. Let's look at that income of what's left." And it changed dramatically. And so they were pretty convinced that they could, when you're spending $16 million on a store, you do your homework and you're pretty convinced that you're going to make a go of it.
Now, the convenience store gas station opened first, and then that's part of their marketing process,
It is. That opened 2 months before. They have a lot of products in the store that you get points off, cents off your gasoline. And the convenience store sells all the same things that the big store sells. Well, not as many, of course. But if you just want a loaf of bread and some peanut butter, you go into the convenience store and it's the same price. that it is in the main store, which I think is really nice for that person that just wants bread and milk and a little bit of gas.
Then you don't have to get in the lineup, right?
So it's very convenient. They have a lot of checkout people, and the food is wonderful, and the deli is fabulous. On that same piece of property was it was actually divided into 3 pieces of property. Where the big store is, there's a little piece where the monument sign will go welcoming people to City Center. And that'll be ours, the city's. And then there was this other piece of land over there in the southeast corner,
kind of
right
by
Applebee's.
Applebee's and 42nd, right?
And Hy-Vee actually went to North Memorial. And so they brought North Memorial in. It's going to be a primary care clinic.
Right.
They're not sure yet if it's going to be emergency care. But there is going to be a minute clinic type thing inside the store, and that's there already.
Right, and that's part of North Memorial, right?
That's part of North Memorial. And of course the pharmacy is there too. So it's all the things we wanted in our little city center, but they're all in one store.
Right. So a successful conclusion.
Very successful.
A long process.
Very long. The North Memorial Clinic won't open until February because they have a lease in Plymouth. And they're moving actually from Plymouth. And so they're building the building. It'll be ready, and they'll just move in February and open then. Do you want to talk about this streetscape?
Yeah, now we're going to move into part of City Center, but a different part that the city's doing now.
Okay.
And it's called the City Center Streetscape Project, right?
It is. In front of the store, Xylon Avenue was really in need of repair. Not only in need of surface repair, but underground stuff.
Right.
And so we knew we needed a new sewer line, a new water line put in there. Part of because Hy-Vee was coming, and partly because we just needed that there. We were having water main breaks. So they had to tear up the whole street, and they thought, well, the time to do that is when they're building Hy-Vee. So they're coming in a different way. They're tearing up that street. They put in a new pad in front of the fire station. And they did this in steps because you simply can't cut off the fire department's access to get out of there, or the police department for that matter. And so we had to do this in little increments, which seemed like it took forever. But the whole idea now is they buried the power lines. They're going to put in trees and planters and benches and pergolas and pretty lighting. And the idea is that people will come, and this is a place they can gather. They can gather. There'll be traffic on it, but they've done some stuff to slow down the traffic, which will help. Of course, people will be coming in and out of Hy-Vee. Right now, that streetscape is all the way down Xylon, and then it makes that turn on 45th. So 45th Avenue, where that turn is a mess. They couldn't do it all at once, of course.
A lot of work,
So the people that live in those 2 buildings on 45th have to be able to get out too. So it's kind of you do it in these little increments, so it seems like it's gone on forever, but it's going to be just gorgeous. And hopefully we can get the farmers market back there.
Wait, and then the process of doing it was kind of interesting because you had a group bringing ideas forward, you had the city staff working on it, and then you ended up having a public hearing on it so you could get more community input on what it should be, because it's kind of like the focal place of New Hope.
Well, we've been trying to go out and do public input as much as we can. And sometimes if you have just a blank slate and you say, what do you think? People just look at you starry-eyed and they're not sure what they think. So what we typically do is get 2 or 3 ideas, put them out there and say, what do you think? Because that spurs more ideas. So a lot of the ideas that came from this came from the citizens. They wanted pergolas, they wanted benches, they wanted some green space, they wanted trees, they wanted flowers, they wanted pretty lighting. And then there's going to be banners. And those banners, again, when we talk about collaboration, we went to Hennepin Technical College again, and this was their graphic arts department, and said, what do you think? Can we get some banners? And so a woman designed 6 banners, and they say things, New Hope on one side, and the other side it'll say a great place to grow, great place to live, a great place to learn. And those banners now are on 42nd Avenue. And as soon as the poles go up, the light poles go up on Xylon, the banners will go there too. So it's going to be very pretty, but it's going to be a mess. through the winter.
It takes time.
It takes
to get
time.
that kind of project
And if
done.
you're going to do it, let's do it right. And that was our whole thought behind this. Our original design was way out of scope with the money available.
Right, right.
And so it's nice to say, well, we want all these fancy things, but when you get down to the actual cost of it,
Right.
so instead of having bricks put in, we had colored concrete put in. Very much less expensive than the bricks, but it looks good.
Right.
And instead of a light pole every 10 feet, maybe it's every 15 feet. Again, you eliminate 2 or 3 of the light poles and you're saving quite a bit of money. So that was part of the citizens' input about how much lighting they need and where it should be. We didn't get into a lot of the details, like what kind of cement do you want to use.
Right.
But we did look at the cost of the project and what their idea of the finished project would be. So they're in the process of putting up the monument sign in the front, putting in all the blacktop or the concrete. So if you've gone by, you'll notice sometimes you only see people from the neck up because they're in the hole putting in the wiring and all that stuff that goes in there. Anyway, we're excited about it.
Now, that street can also be closed off for city events, right?
Oh, it can. The fire department insisted that we not close off their entrance, which makes sense, and the police department. So we installed ballers. Those are like pillars that are in the street, and we can pop them up so we can block off the street. We can have our city days in the street. If the farmers market does come back, then we could have that in the street. We have to work out some parking details. But so there are events that we can have in the street, which makes it a lot more citizen friendly.
Oh, definitely.
So
right.
We're happy about that. The bollards are just before the police department entrance, so they can get out on 45th. And of course, we can't do that until they get 45th done.
Right.
And just before the fire department, so they can still get out of there. A couple important events that we need to have them get out when they need to get out.
So when do you anticipate that the project will be completed again?
Probably spring.
Okay.
You know, they're hoping to have the light fixtures in. They planted half the trees yesterday, so by the time this airs, they will have all the trees put in. The flowering baskets, of course, we're looking at maybe businesses want to sponsor those like they do in some of the other cities.
Sure.
They won't be there right away, but as soon as the light poles go up, the banners will go on because we have the banners for that.
Right.
So it'll start to look, we have the benches already, it'll start to look like we want it to look, but it won't be complete till spring.
But New Hope added a second quiet zone for the railroads on Winnetka where the railroads go across.
Indeed.
So what is a railroad quiet zone? What does it?
Well, when the railroads come by, you know, those arms come down and they blow their horns because the arms come down and you can, if you're silly, you can go between those arms and you can go around. Well, occasionally somebody gets killed.
Oh, every once in a while.
And so the railroad said, you know, we're going to beep our horns as long as you've got a space to get by. So when we did Boone, we had to put like a thing in the middle. I think they call it I don't know what they call it.
But it's a barrier.
A barrier.
You can't drive across it
So
easily.
they put that, and then they extended the arms so they couldn't get by, and they had to put some stuff on the side so you can't get your bike around it. And then when that was all done, the railroad said, well, maybe we won't blow our horn. They wouldn't promise anything. And it's up to them if they think there's any danger at all, they can blow their horn. So they were kind of half doing that. Well, then we thought we'd go and do the Winnetka one. So we started looking at that, and lo and behold, Hennepin County had already put in the electronics. So that saved us a lot of money. And then Hennepin County says, well, we'll give you $140,000 to do this. So we were able to do the project basically free. Once we had the Winnetka zone in, now they couldn't blow at Boone and they couldn't blow at Winnetka, they were more willing to not blow those horns. The next step is in Crystal. And that's Crystal's doing, not ours, because they still have to blow their horns there. And of course you can hear that. How this came about is there's more trains than there used to be.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to just bring up.
They come all through the night.
Uh-huh.
And when a train is coming by every 30, 40 minutes all through the night blowing their horns, it's very disruptive to the people that are living around there. I know some people say, well, the trains were there before the apartments were. Yes, they were, but they weren't nearly as busy.
No, not as many.
And some of these trains thought it was cute to blow the horn to music.
Right.
And so the horns would be blowing a lot and very, very disruptive.
Mm-hmm.
So we're happy with how this has come about. And so the trains are still coming.
Right.
And we are still being very careful so we don't have an accident there. And now you can't get by the barriers, so it's pretty successful.
And so the whole project probably took the greater part of a year?
Well, the Winnetka one about a year,
Yeah.
but the Boone one a little bit longer. Trying to get approval for all this was very difficult.
Wow.
Because the railroads have some opportunities that the rest of us don't have.
Right.
And so we had to work around what they, and you can see their point of view. They don't want bad publicity by running somebody over, even though that person wasn't very smart to go through there. So you can see why they want to be careful.
Yeah, and when the New Hope first looked at it, which would have been several years back now, the cost was almost prohibitive.
Yeah, it was.
I think at one point it was going to cost like $500,000 or something.
Yeah, and we couldn't,
No.
we just couldn't justify that. But the cost came down a lot because, well, quite frankly, our engineers worked with them and said, what else can we do? Because originally they wanted us to rebuild the whole road.
Right.
And so we kept saying, well, how about if we did this? How about if we did the barrier? How about if we extended the... So there were some things that they worked out that the railroad agreed to.
Right.
And so we were able to get... The first one was a little more expensive, but the second one didn't cost us anything at all.
Right.
So of the two...
A big plus.
A big plus for the city.
Well, I want to thank you so much for
Thank you.
bringing all these forward so people know what's happening in the area of New Hope or what's going to in the future. And we'll encourage those of you in New Hope to take time to share your ideas with Mayor Hemken or with the council members, or gather more information if it's a subject that you think stirred your interest up by contacting the city staff. So we're glad that you've been with us, and we'll encourage you to watch next week for part 2. And then we want to let you know that in November, and we'll give you some more information on that, the process of programming is going to change. In one of our channels there will be standard definition and one will be high definition, and we'll give you some more information that we're going to be on the high definition channel. But just to kind of clue you up a little bit ahead of time. Bye.